Welcome to Give Me Hope with your host and author, Johanna Vendel. Come join the conversation as Johanna focuses on sharing impactful personal narratives of loss. Her platform provides a safe space for individuals to express themselves, find comfort, and build connections as they navigate their grief journey. So now, please welcome the host of Give Me Hope,
Good day,
Johanna
everyone,
Vendel.
and welcome to Give Me Hope with Johanna. Today, I actually have a very interesting gentleman who is going to share his story with us, and his name is Bill Pautler. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but he is also an author, but he's got a very, very interesting background, which definitely triggers me to make sure that I listen to what he has to say. So let's not wait very long. Let's introduce Bill, and he can tell you a little bit more about his background and introduce himself. And then we will start with our chat. Welcome, Bill. How are you today?
Thank you, Joanna. I'm very good. Thank you.
Welcome. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit more about your background? Because you do have a very interesting background. So let's hear all about it a little.
Okay. Uh, I grew up in Southern Illinois, just out in the country, and uh, my whole bend right now and bent for the last 30 years is really around spirituality. And I remember kneeling. And I will cry some because I have the gift of tears too. So y'all just have to put up with me. But I remember kneeling in the church as a young Catholic boy, like 6, 7, and just praying to the statues that they would blink at me or do something because I wanted to know that God was real. But of course, that didn't happen. Uh, and then I went off to college and was crazy and got married and started working and started having kids, but always had this spiritual thing running in the background. Uh, and Then I had a spiritual experience. I went to my neighbor's house for a Bible study, and they were telling me, Bill, you need to ask Jesus to come into your life. And I'm like, I love Jesus. Jesus is already in my life. I was, I was going to church. I was raising my kids Catholic, but I went out on a bike ride that night after this Bible study. And I said, Jesus, if you want to come into my heart, just come on into my heart. And when I got home about an hour later, when I walked through the front door, I started crying. And I cried for 2 days straight, almost solid for 2 days straight. And, I call it the spirit came over me. One of my mentors told me that I got the gift of tears. He didn't tell me that till about 6 months later because I just felt like a big crybaby, especially as a man, right? Um, and that was kind of the thing that super kicked it off. And then I just started down this spiritual path and started a book club. And I've had 2 wives. I've got 6 kids. I've started multiple companies. I was a hot air balloon pilot. I ride motorcycles. I ride bicycles. I used to camp a lot, canoe. I mean, I've done lots and lots of stuff. But, there was this point after my spiritual walk where Spirit told me, and it was about 30 years into my spiritual walk, the Spirit told me to write a book because the journey was hard and it took a long time. And that was before a lot of the internet stuff. And so, I was studying books and going to people that I thought were wise and all that type of stuff. And so now I believe that I've got a little bit of a grasp on what spirituality is. And I think it's very, very practical. And I think it's not necessarily hard, but it's easy to do. the process can be a little bit hard, but there are no crazy steps that you have to take. It's the message of all the prophets has been very, very practical. And so that's what I'm taking to the world.
Wow.
And that's me.
That is definitely something that I can relate to, was when I said my personal yes to Jesus as well, and how I could feel his Holy Spirit just coming over me, and the crying, I think, just comes with it all, because when you feel that touch of Jesus touching your heart after you've had so much heartache and
Yes.
gone through so much in your life. And I don't know how much you know about me, but I also have lost my entire family, and it was very difficult. But with God in my life, and I only said my personal yes to God after my dad and my twin sister died. I thought I always had Jesus in my life, like you said, when you were a little boy, you pray because you want to believe that Jesus is real, because this is the stories that you hear, and your parents raise you, go to church and tell you about Jesus and all that he has done. But
Yeah.
by the end of the day, you have to say your own personal yes. Doesn't matter if you were baptized when you were little or anything like that. It is when you scream out like you did, God, just come into my life. He actually comes. And it is a
That's cool.
feeling that I also cannot describe to you when I felt him come into my life. But like you say, after he did, my life has changed. I have grown a lot. I have become stronger in my grief as well. Um, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And then you did a lot of studying in the spiritual world as well. Is it to just to recognize what you're feeling, or what is it, something that is actually a direction that you are doing as a man now, like your work, or is it just something that you were interested in?
Um, I mean, for like the last 35 years, it's been my core. So it's beyond an interest. I believe it's actually, a gift.
Part
Well,
of
I
your
believe that,
life?
yes. I believe that we all come in with a soul plan. Okay. I used to believe very much the Catholic Church, and there's still a lot of beauty in the Catholic Church. But I think that a lot of the Christian religions have been very watered down. Uh, and But anyway, I believe that we come in with a soul plan. I believe I came in with a soul plan. And as we start to surrender our life to God, to Christ, and we move the noise away in the world, because we have to have quiet time. All the prophets would always go, Jesus would go up the mountain and pray. Buddha sat underneath the tree. Nelson Mandela was in jail. Malcolm X was in jail. All these people all had these quiet time, because you have to turn the noise of the world off so that you can hear your higher spirit. So anyway, I'll boil all that down to, at this point in time, I don't know that I could say this even a couple years ago. I just feel like that my soul plan is this, and it's always been that deep river inside me, but I had to realize it. And so, I'm going to go back to my message to the world is that we're all spiritual, because we're all animated by the Spirit of God. Okay, so that makes us spiritual to begin with. And
Yes.
it's just a matter of uncovering ourselves from the outside world and then realizing that God's Spirit animates us and lives inside of us. And if God's Spirit lives inside of us, then we are the essence of God. So
Amen.
as we take these false beliefs and this trauma and this victimization off of us, what happens is we realize how beautiful and loving we naturally are. And that's a very, very practical thing. And so I just want people to stop and be with themselves for a minute and realize how powerful they are, because we are these, it's just like Aladdin. We're these great big genies and we're in these itty bitty little bodies, right? And we have a limit from between us and the other side. Our bodies, our vision, our hearing limits us from seeing the all, so that we can stay in this experience to
Yes.
fine tune our soul and our manifestation into the world.
Yes. Oh, that is so powerful. Wow. That is exactly how would see my life as well. Is you first have to find yourself. And after I found myself, I also realized that I had to love myself
Yes.
before someone else can love me, you know. And if you look in the mirror, and I was just speaking to a previous lady as well in my previous podcast, and she also were bringing up the mirror, you know. We are all just human, and we are very quick to blame someone else for our mistakes.
Yes.
But as soon as I think one can stand strong for yourself and believe in yourself and love yourself, that
Yes.
is only then when you can say, you can feel the love of Jesus Christ living through you as well. And
Mhm.
then try to just be good, because if there are more good people in this world won't be so crazy. And it's really, oh, I don't know what's going to happen in another 20 years when our children, who is younger now, with all of these things going on, how the world is going to be then. Oh, I don't even want to think about it.
Well, that's our job, Joanna, isn't it? Uh, is to be just a little pebble of truth in this world, and it ripples out, and our kids pick it up, other people pick it up. It's, we can't control 20 years from now. What we can control is the decision to love right now.
Yes, we can make a difference today, because today is all we have, actually.
Yes.
Tomorrow is not promised. Yesterday we can't get back.
Yesterday's gone.
And I also had to learn it the hard way after losing my entire family, knowing that today is actually all we have. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, but this is the legacy that I want to leave behind, is that I am a child of God, and I am going to do everything in my power to make sure that maybe someone hears my voice or my story and turn their lives around and follow Jesus as well. That will just be so amazing to know that you make a difference in someone else's life.
Well, I think you're making a difference in my life already. Thank you. So I want to go back to loving ourselves for just a second. Um, and actually, if you'll remind me to bring up intention also, okay? As you touched on that a little bit ago. I like to tell people that you have to put your own oxygen mask on first. Um, and Jesus, and I love Jesus. And I got a whole thing on Christ consciousness. I got all type of stuff uh, that I could talk about Jesus, but I don't think we should be exclusive because there are a lot of religions in the world, and a lot of people believe a lot of different things, and there's a lot of truth in a lot of religions. Um, but Jesus said many times in the Bible a couple things. Do not fear. He preached forgiveness, and he preached not to judge people. Okay. And I think that the first step in loving anybody else is to love ourselves. And when we can get to the point where, and I got a whole thing on forgiveness too, so you just can shut me up anytime you want to,
No,
okay?
no, I will listen because I believe in everything that you're already saying. So
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Thank you. Um, when we can learn how to forgive ourselves, then we can forgive others. Okay. When we learn not to judge ourselves, then we don't judge others. Okay. And we've got to remember that every soul here is learning their own lessons at their own speed in their and in their own situations. Okay. And like you said earlier, that you had to go through all those hard things, and I've been through a lot of hard things too. Um, but it's when you get the hard lessons that the purification comes and the lesson soaks in. Okay. But um, the word forgiveness, if you look at it, for means in front. Like the fore of a boat is the front of the boat, the
Mhm.
back of the boat is the aft of the boat. So the word for means in front. And to give means to give, right? So when we talk about forgiveness, and this came to me sitting in a cemetery in 7 hours of meditation back in Lent, you know, Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, in that 40-day time period. Um, and that is that we come here as co creators in the universe. And God knows that we're going to make mistakes, but that's the only way to learn. So God knows we're going to make mistakes. Okay. And so the word forgiveness is really a word for us, not as much for God, but God has given us the free will to make any mistakes that we need to make. Okay. So he has forgiven us. He has given us that opportunity in advance. Forgive. Okay. And so when we realize that we're going to make mistakes and then we can forgive ourselves, then we can forgive others. In fact, you can get to the point where people can harm you and they might want to ask for forgiveness or maybe not, but there's really even no need for forgiveness because when it happens, there I don't even need to forgive them because I'm not judging them. I'm giving them all the latitude that they can have. And that doesn't mean that occasionally we don't need to keep our energies away from people that harm us. I'm not saying that, but that there's forgiveness before the action even happens. And then when we can forgive people, and then we realize everybody's doing the best they can from their own given perspective, and that includes us, then there is no judgment. And when you let go of forgiveness and judgment of yourself, you can let go of forgiveness and judgment of everybody else. And then that's when the peace that surpasses all understanding enters our lives.
Yes, forgiveness is definitely a big thing. And I have realized that forgiveness has made me live my life to the fullest again. Because sometimes when you say, I'm sorry to someone, or forgive me, or I forgive you, you
Right.
know, that is the one that's very important, is when you forgive someone else.
Hmm.
And saying it to that person, it just changed your life so much. I had to forgive someone in my life previously, and I must tell you, since I have forgiven that person, it's like I can just move on with my life, and that person can go on with his life, and I really bless his life with everything he does. But for me, I am moving on, and that happened years ago in my life. And I must say, after forgiving, one can definitely move on. The reaction that I got was, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't need your forgiveness.
Hmm.
I didn't care the reaction that I got. All I knew is those words were going to stay with that person for a while. And maybe he will realize that, well, I cannot believe that she really forgave me.
Hmm.
And I think just by doing it sincerely out of your heart, it changed my life. And I'm moving on. And yeah, that person is still part of my life. And we have a much better relationship now, and friendship in a way. But it's a big thing. It's a big thing. People don't want to be the one saying, I forgive you, or hearing, I forgive you, because you were not wanting to forgive or wanting that person in your life, or I don't know. But life can be difficult.
Yes.
It's complicated.
Johanna, life can be difficult. I think
It
that's
is so complicated.
the understatement of this podcast. Life can be difficult.
Oh,
Uh,
you were talking about intentions earlier.
yes, and I want to jump back for 1 second and thank you for bringing intentions up. Um, I write a weekly story, and I'm sure you're going to put my book or my website or something up on this at some point in time or in the description. But anybody that goes to my web page can sign up for a free weekly story.
Mm,
And I wrote a couple weeks ago about the story of Ebenezer Scrooge.
yes.
Yes, most of us do. And one of the ghosts that came to him was in chains.
Yeah.
And remember, he was dragging his chains, and he said something along the lines of, and this was what I wrote part of my story about, uh, was that he forged those chains in his own lifetime. The ghost did. And so my story was called The Chains We Choose. Okay.
Hmm.
So anytime that we choose not to forgive somebody, that we choose not to forgive ourselves, that the person that we're forgiving, when they choose not to accept an apology, or what we're really doing in all those situations is we are holding those chains. Okay.
You're basically
And
adding it onto your life,
they get heavy.
hold you
Okay.
down.
That hold you down. And when you talked about forgiving that person and how you felt different, you felt lighter because you were taking one of the links out of your chain. And so
Yes.
we create our own chains. And it's just a matter of looking at ourselves and what chains that we are carrying. And as we drop those chains, our spirits get lighter. And they get lighter because, the saints had those halos around their head in the pictures, right? In the paintings.
Mm-hmm.
That's because we're all filled with light, you know? And when we drop off the false beliefs, the victimizations, the traumas, the judgment, the lack of forgiveness, when we drop all those things, the natural light of our body that we're animated with starts to show. And so, and a lot of people go around, they're talking about being enlightened and not enlightened, and, you got to be this way to be enlightened. Enlightened is a process. It's a process of letting all the beautiful light that's inside you out by letting go of your chains. That is that is the very simple practical concept behind walking in the path of Jesus.
That is such a beautiful way to describe it. With that ghost with the chains, I mean, I'm sure everyone have seen that, um, or
Yeah,
read that story.
sure.
Um, and wow, I've never really looked at it as carrying all those chains and kind of letting them go. Then I must have let quite a few chains loose lately because I am feeling so much lighter since I have started to write my stories down as well. After I published three non-fictional books, which is the stories of my life.
Wow.
The one is Life Think Again, where I describe the entire life story and how my family members has all died. Then I went through a very big dip. I wrote Navigating Through Losses and Grief, Think Again, because I felt I was chained down, literally.
Right.
And then I realized after 27 years of being chained down, I wrote my third nonfiction book, a memoir that I wrote, and it's called Unseen Tears Beneath the Mask, where
Oh,
I
wow.
think I have now removed all of these chains, like you said, and I have removed my mask. And oh my word, I am a new person, to be honest with you. I think it's like the sun is shining again for the first time in a long time in my life. It's a good story.
It's beautiful.
I think I removed those chains.
Thank you for being vulnerable. And I believe that humbleness is power under control. Because when you're really humble, you realize your power, but you control it for good.
Yes, now I'm going to be in charge of my life from now on. And I'm going to make good choices all the time. And I always try to teach my kids also just to be humble and kind. It doesn't cost any money to be kind to people and treat people with respect all the time, because that is something I always try to do, is be honest and open and kind and try to help people wherever I can. But I get done in so many times. It's unbelievable. But I've grown up now, and I'm definitely going to live my life to the fullest as well. Shoo, you've brought up a lot of emotions in me.
I can see that, sweetheart. But you know what? Let's jump back to intentions right now, real quick.
Yes, yes,
And that is, you just told me that you're living your life intentionally, right? And that is, once you realize that we're spirits in bodies trying to co create with God and trying to learn how to control our power so that we can use our power for good now and in the future. I mean, in this life and in our next lives, okay? Because we will always be co-creators with God. Where was I going with all that? Oh, in that, once you understand that, then you have to set the intention. Jesus said, put your hand to the plow and don't look back. So you
mhm,
have to set an intention. That's kind of the next big step is once you kind of realize all this, you have to set an intention to follow this path. Okay. And once you do, and you really make that commitment and you've asked God, Christ, whichever big spirit you believe in, okay? Um, once you ask them to come into your heart, uh, and you set your intention, then your path will unfold and you'll learn
yes,
how to surrender. But you have to set the intention. Having the intention, a lot of people go to church and they basically farm out their spirituality to their pastor and their church. But we are in charge of our own spiritual progress. And when you set an intention and realize that, that's when you start to really begin to make progress on the
yes.
spiritual path.
Yes, I
So
always
intention
say
is
that
key.
you have to, you know, I was always a runner, a sprinter, and you always see the finish line when you are a sprinter. When you are a long distance runner, you never see the finish line. It feels like it's never coming.
Right.
And being a sprinter now, that's just an example now that I'm
Sure.
using because of how you were saying earlier, is that you need to kind of see that finish line and keep your eye focused on what you want in life, because that's the way you're going to live your life, is intentionally. That
Yes.
is, it's powerful actually, if you think about it like that.
Hmm. No, it's very powerful. And see, what I would say is that as you strip yourself down and you become more in tune with the spirit that's inside of you, this spirit inside of you is connected to your higher spirit, your soul, and your soul's connected to God. And we're all in this big consciousness together. And once you start to, the scripture I use all the time is do not conform yourself to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you will know the perfect and pleasing will of God. Because we come into this world, we get conformed to all these stupid rules and prejudices and we experience victimization, but then we don't let go of it, and we experience trauma and then we don't let go of it. We carry those chains around. But once we realize that we're not supposed to conform to this world, okay, we transform by making our mind, renewing our mind, the renewal of our mind. We make our mind new again in the spirit, in beautiful processes, aligning ourselves internally with our higher self. Then, when all this clutter, this noise of the world clears away, actually, our pineal gland is our spiritual antenna to the other side. our pineal gland gets clear enough that it can hear the messages, right? And then we can uh, we can stay in tune with what we were came here to get accomplished, and it all starts to unfold naturally.
Yes.
I think there was
Yes.
another point in that, but I forgot what it was. But anyway,
Sometimes I think also when you said that we are all here, to do what we have to do in life and things like that. I don't think many people think like that till they don't open their hearts for the Spirit to enter.
mhm,
Because only then I think you can see it like you and I can see it now,
mhm,
Um, because, and I mean, I'm not talking about seeing ghosts or seeing
right,
things like that. Um, but it's a feeling, like I say, that comes over you when you let that person, that Holy Spirit into your life.
mhm,
Like you said, we all have different beliefs, and if you just let your God into your life, then
mhm,
I think your life will shine through. A lot of people sometimes, when I was a salesperson a while ago, a long while ago, when I was
mhm.
younger, um, people will always come to my counter, and the other girls would always say to me, Johanna, why are the people always coming to your counter? You're not even saying, hello, can I help? Or this or that. They just come to your counter. I say, because I gave them a nice smile and they felt welcome to walk closer to me and ask me a question. And then I
Exactly.
take it from there on and I will help them and make the sale, and I do it like that. And I think it's that spiritual attraction that I have, or I don't know. Maybe I just, I don't know. But um, sometimes I do attract people that just come and talk to me all of a sudden out of the blue. And my kids are always like, Mommy, you always talking to strangers, and then you talk like you know each other for a long time. And I think it's that spiritual thing that you are talking about.
Oh, it absolutely is that spiritual thing I'm talking about. Because once you get cleaned off and you stay tuned in, your spirit's powerful and people can feel it. People, if even from a safety perspective, like I go into places that most people do not feel safe in, and I feel very safe. Um, and that's just one small example, but your intuition goes up when your spirit's open. People come and talk to you.
Yeah.
People, I have conversations. I pretty much try not to have non deep conversations with people. So if somebody engages me, we're going down the rabbit hole as quick as I can take them, right? Uh, but when like you said, I mean, a smile is a manifestation of the joy of your spirit, right? That's the physical presence in the world. And when you smile, when you're not in your ego, when you're open, people have said things to me that they haven't told their spouses and their best friends, and it's a safe zone because I'm going to see them for a minute and then I'm going on, right?
And then they will never see
um,
you again.
Yes, exactly. So I get that too. But this whole thing of life starts to flow as we let our chains down and we open our spirits up and we acknowledge the love inside of us. And I look at everybody that I come in contact with as another soul, an eternal soul that's going through this journey on earth with us. Okay? And why should I treat any other soul differently? Should I treat a person that drives an expensive car and has a suit or a beautiful dress on any different than I treat I call them street people that literally live outside my building, who I have a number of street friends that I've met. Some of them I feed, some of them they bring me wisdom. Uh, but once and most of my friends and people I used to work with, when they come downtown, they're all street people and don't give them any money and lock your doors. I walk among them every day, and they're just people that are living a different lifestyle and have had different problems and issues. But it's exactly like you said. Once your spirit opens up, it flows, people come to you, you have beautiful conversations. I mean, everything we do, everything we verbalize, every action we take is either for love or against love.
Yes.
Okay? And I tell people, you want to become spiritual? Start choosing everything you do, choosing love. Where am I going to park my car? I'll park down there because there's an old lady that's trying to park right here, and I will give her the 10 less steps she has to take, right? It doesn't matter. Just keep choosing in love.
Yes. Yes, that is so true. You've got very good ways of describing things.
It's practical.
Hmm.
You don't have to go to church. You don't have to kneel. You don't have to turn around and do special yoga things. And I'm not saying that any of that's bad. I'm just telling you that Jesus walked the earth and he was very practical about his spirituality. He
Yes.
went off, he got some quiet time, he communed with God and the Holy Spirit. He came back in, brought his message, treated people with forgiveness, without judgment, loved on everybody, called the people that were obviously living in their egos, um, especially some of the spiritual priests and priestesses or whatever at that time, called them out on their stupid rules. Okay, um, so all that stuff happens to us when we let the light in. Well, the light's already there when we uncover the light.
Yes, yes. So, do you want to tell people about your book a little bit, and where they can find it, and little background? What will they
Yeah.
find in there if they read it?
Yeah. Um, I wrote my book because after 30 years, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, Spirit told me, write a book that helps people advance practically in their spiritual life. And so I just took 3 years and I wrote it all down. And it made me codify my own belief system, which was probably the strongest thing. Even if no, and I know some people have read it, but even if nobody read it, it helped me, right? Um,
That's the
but
most important, is that it actually helped you as well.
yeah, it helped me have conversations like this, right? I
Yes,
had to
I
really
know the
think about what
feeling.
I believe.
I know the feeling.
Yes,
My book also helped me after I wrote it. I mean, look at me now. I'm laughing, I'm smiling, so it definitely helped me. Um,
yes.
Continue.
So anyway, I do have my book here.
Yes,
Uh, it's called Awakening to Ourselves, The Practical Art of Building a Spiritually Aware Life. You can find it on Amazon. Uh, you can go to my website and I know you put that up, and I've got a
I will
YouTube
put it
channel.
on all of your details. I'll put at the bottom of the video, so
Great,
you
thank you.
can find all the details and get his book right there.
Thank you. And I've got a YouTube channel too. Um, but basically, I took all my 30 years of knowledge, crammed it into one book, wrote it like I'm talking to you, okay? Put a lot of my experiences in there, explained how I kind of got to where I was, broke it all up into two parts. First part is basically, realizing that spirit is in us. realizing that we're eternal. Here's another practical thing that we can do as human beings is every time we're making decisions and thinking about life, think about that we are going to be alive forever. That's a long time. Okay. So, do I really need to pull in front of this person uh, and make them angry because I got to get somewhere 2 minutes faster? Okay. Do I need to, uh, when I'm having a difficult time, since I've been through two divorces, I've had a lot of adjustment with my children, right? Six children. Um, and there's been times when they have rejected me and not talked to me, different ones. I have one that was on drugs, and literally, I won't tell the whole story, but I was in the airport. I was sending him off to out west to be in a wilderness program. And he came over, and right before he got on the airplane, I was watching him get on. I had one of my friends was taking him to Utah, and he walked over to me right before I got in the airplane as I was staying in the airport, and he got right up in my face and he spit on me. And that just, I felt like Christ, like I just got spat on right in the face, and I could feel the saliva running down me. Um, and that child of mine is an incredible friend of mine now, and we've our difficulties has grown both of us, and so it's been very beautiful. So anyway, all that. So the first part of my book is about the basics. Why are we here? God's inside of us, a lot of different things like that. And then the second part of my book is the practicalities of what you have to do in your day-to-day life to kind of just be open to some of this stuff. And then I put little practices in there too. Um, so that, and everything that I do is not like you get, I mean, writing stuff in journals is good, but
Mm.
all my practical advice is things you can do while you're walking down the sidewalk, while you're showering, while you have conversations in grocery stores, when you're getting in your car. It's not, you have, and I do believe that everybody's got to set a time apart. I would prefer that everybody spend at least 5 or 10 minutes in complete silence by themselves every day, because that is mandatory. If you look at all the prophets, including Jesus, they all took time apart every day to commune. Because if you're not quiet, you can't hear spirit, okay?
Mm.
Not until you get kind of in a routine. But all my stuff is really practical. I just put all that in my book so that people would have that as a resource. And I wanted the process that took me 33 years or whatever, I wanted to condense it so people could get to it in a year or six
Mm.
months. Or, it does take time to assimilate into your system, but that they didn't have, it wasn't as hard for them. I want to
Yes.
speed this process up.
Yes. Because it doesn't just happen overnight. You read about something and you think
No.
about it, and how will I use this in my life, and how can it affect my life? How can it change my life? But it is always nice to read um, something like that can definitely help you to get on the right path, I think.
Yeah. And uh, education comes from the word educe. Okay. And educe means to pull out of.
Yes.
Okay. So all good education, my books, your books, um, these podcasts, what we're really doing is we're pulling out the wisdom that's already inherent in the person, and
Mm-hmm.
it's somewhere kind of running around in the back of their mind or in their spirit, and they hadn't quite put a framework on it. And so all we're doing is pulling out the wisdom that people have got in their hearts already and
Yes.
helping them put a framework on it so they can implement it in their daily lives.
Basically awaking it, because it might be just dormant, just you see,
Awakening
awaking.
to ourselves, right?
Yes, yes, just awaking. Hey, it's just to let that light go on. Sometimes I also just needed that light to go on, and I think it went on eventually.
Yes.
um,
And the vibration of the words, us being live, this is very powerful. All the prophets taught in stories and words and with the logos, the vibration of the word into the world. And I
yes.
can go off on energy. I can go off on all type of different categories. But anyway,
I should maybe bring you back and we can speak about the other topics as well. Um, well, our time is up, Bill. Unfortunately, time flies when you are enjoying yourself, and I really enjoyed listening to you. And I can just feel that you have got a good spirit around you and within you, and the vibration that comes out of your mouth is definitely something that aligns with my spirit as well. And thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate you being here.
well, thank you, Johanna. And I can feel your spirit too, sweetheart. And it's beautiful. And I know we're going to say goodbye. So I like to end this way. And then I'll let you sum it up. But the word namaste is bantered about in the spiritual world quite a bit. And most people don't know what that word really means. But namaste means that the divine spirit in me honors the divine spirit in you. So I would say to you, uh, namaste. May my spirit honor your spirit, and may our spirits honor the spirits of everybody that watched this.
Amen. Thank you so much. Well, this was an amazing story to hear today. It touched my heart. I hope that it touched your heart who is watching this today. And may your road ahead be open and bright. And may God live through you so that you can shine your light on others. I am Johanna Wendell, and you are watching Give Me Hope with Johanna. And if you have a story to tell, please reach out. I'm looking forward to next week. I will see you soon. Have a great day. Goodbye.
This has been Give Me Hope with your host, Johanna Wendell. Join Johanna each week and harness the transformative power of storytelling to facilitate healing and growth. Wednesdays